In Empire of Wild by Cherie Dimaline from Random House, we follow Joan, an indigenous woman who's recently lost her husband Victor. Literally. He went missing following the first fight they ever had, and he hasn't been seen in about 11 months. Joan still holds out hope that Victor will turn up, and one day he does. Joan sees a man preaching at a tent revival outside a Walmart and instantly knows it's her husband, though he's now going by the name Reverend Eugene Wolfe, and apparently has no memory of Joan or of his old life. The setup for this one is intriguing for sure, and I really liked being along with the character of Joan. She drinks too much, she struggles with grief, and wallows a bit in her self-pity, but not to the point that I found her repellent as a character. In fact, I felt I could relate to her a lot on some levels. She desperately misses her husband, and frankly, as the kids would say, she's thirsty AF.
Shut up, bro.
She misses her husband. This book focuses on the lives of indigenous North American people in modern times, highlighting the ever-present cultural erosion of their lifestyles and traditions even in their own communities. Though I can't personally relate, I thought it was handled pretty well. I will say that I struggled a little bit with the interactions Joan has with her family, and some of the asides we get regarding who they are and in their own personal struggles. Though I'm sure those little stories and characters will hit with some readers, I could have done without them in favor of a little more time spent with the character who turns out being the main villain of this story. There are some plot conveniences throughout that felt a little undercooked to me, but nothing that detracted too much from my enjoyment. Dimaline does her best to endear us to the character of Zeus, Joan's cousin or nephew, and he's a nice traveling buddy for Joan, but he felt a little tacked on at times, I think. And though I felt 300 pages was a little lengthy for this story, sections in which we hear about a sinister, dreamlike struggle involving Victor peppered throughout kept things moving along. Without getting too spoilery, I was a little confused about the nature of why what happened to Victor happened to him. It's touched on, but when it's explained, I kind of felt like, oh, that's it? Okay. There's some indigenous lore sprinkled in Empire of Wild that's pretty interesting. I've briefly heard about the rougarou in fiction in the past, but this was the first story I've read that had the creature at the forefront. The aging Algene, a wonderfully fun and sassy character, explains the protective properties of salt bones, calcified growths that emerge from the bodies of certain native people, including some of Joan's own relatives. This was one of my favorite bits in the book. It's just weird and out there, and not exactly at odds with the tone of the book, but it kind of sticks out, no pun intended. There's good pulpy horror in this one, and some fun characters as well. And though I would have preferred a tighter telling of this story, there's plenty of good bits to keep a reader intrigued. I'd say check this one out for an intriguing look at some good character-driven horror that also delves into some social themes as well, like capitalism, colonialism, race discrimination. I'm no good with trigger warnings, but I'll try to run some down here. It's a horror book, so there's some icky stuff, some violence, some death, some implied sexual assault, and there's also some animal death in this, which I'd forgotten about until I checked some of the other trigger warnings before doing this review. So if that sounds like something you wouldn't be into, then steer clear of this one. It didn't provide too much of a barrier for me in it, but if some people are more sensitive about that stuff, then by all means, give this one a pass. If you're interested, check out cherrydimaline.com. You can also go to Random House or Amazon, anywhere books are sold, to get Empire of Wild by Cherie Dimaline. What did you think about this one, Winston? You like Empire of Wild?
I rate Empire of Wild by Cherie Dimaline 2.5 mystical skull growths.